I stood in front of the full-length mirror in my bridal suite, staring at myself in the ivory lace gown I'd spent months choosing, and I couldn't stop shaking. Not from nerves about marrying Marcus, God, no. I'd never been more certain about anything in my life. I was shaking because of the text message that had just shattered what should have been the happiest morning of my existence. My phone sat on the vanity table, screen still glowing with my mother's words. Words I'd read 5 times now, each time hoping I'd misread them, that autocorrect had somehow twisted her meaning into something less cruel. Can't make it to the wedding. Vanessa needs us at her promotion brunch. You understand. Family comes first. Family comes first. My sister Vanessa's promotion brunch. A last-minute thing she'd announced 3 days ago, scheduled for the exact same time as my wedding ceremony. The wedding she'd known about for 8 months. The wedding I'd sent save-the-dates for, invitations for, the wedding I'd called her about a dozen times to finalize bridesmaid details for. And my mother had chosen the brunch. I heard a knock at the door, soft and tentative. Claire. It was Jenna, my best friend and maid of honor, her voice careful like she was approaching a wounded animal. Sweetie, can I come in? I couldn't answer. My throat had closed up completely, stuffed with all the words I'd never been allowed to say my entire life. The door opened anyway, and Jenna slipped inside, her emerald bridesmaid dress swishing as she rushed to my side. Oh no, she breathed when she saw my face. What happened? I held up my phone with trembling fingers, unable to speak. She took it, read the message, and I watched her expression shift from confusion to shock to pure, white-hot fury. Are you fucking kidding me? She hissed. Today? They're doing this today? It's not just Mom, I managed to whisper, my voice coming out strangled and small. Look at the group chat. She scrolled up, her face growing darker with each message. My father, sorry kiddo, but your sister's worked really hard for this promotion. We need to support her. You'll have Marcus there anyway. My brother Ryan, yeah, Claire, don't be dramatic. It's just a wedding. Vanessa's career is important. And then Vanessa herself, the message that had arrived just 2 minutes before my mother's. Thanks for understanding, sis. I knew you wouldn't make a fuss. You're always so chill about everything. Love you. Chill about everything. Because I'd spent 28 years being the easy one, the flexible one, the daughter who never complained when family dinners got rescheduled because Vanessa had a date. The sister who gave up her college graduation party because Vanessa needed help moving into her new apartment that same weekend. The one who smiled and said, "It's fine," every single time I came second, third, last. And now, on my wedding day, I was supposed to be chill about being abandoned. Claire. Jenna's voice cut through the spiral of my thoughts. She gripped my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. Listen to me. You have 200 people downstairs who love you and Marcus. People who showed up, who bought gifts, who are excited to celebrate you. Your family? She spat the word like poison. They just showed you exactly who they are. Finally. Clearly. But it's my wedding, I choked out, and the tears finally came, hot and furious, streaming down my face and threatening to ruin the makeup that had taken an hour to perfect. It's my wedding and my own mother won't even be here. What does that say about me? It says nothing about you, Jenna shot back fiercely, grabbing tissues and dabbing at my face with surprising gentleness. It says everything about them. Claire, honey, you are kind and generous and you have bent yourself into a pretzel your whole life trying to earn their attention. And you know what? You don't need to anymore. Because in about 45 minutes, you're going to marry a man who chose you first, who will always choose you first. That's your family now. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. But there was this voice in my head, my mother's voice, my father's voice, Vanessa's voice, telling me I was selfish for being upset. That I was making a big deal out of nothing. That family obligations were complicated and I should be mature enough to understand. Another text came through. This time from Vanessa, and she'd sent a photo. Her, in a designer dress at some upscale restaurant, champagne glass raised, surrounded by my parents and Ryan, all of them smiling like they were at the event of the century. The caption read, "Celebrating our girl. Sorry you couldn't make it, Claire. Sorry I couldn't make it. To her brunch. On my wedding day." Something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like ice splintering across a frozen lake, the sound echoing in the hollow space where my family's love should have been. "I need air," I gasped, stumbling toward the balcony door of the bridal suite. Jenna didn't try to stop me, just followed quietly as I stepped out onto the small terrace overlooking the garden where my ceremony would take place in less than an hour. The venue was beautiful. Marcus and I had chosen this place together, a historic estate with sprawling gardens and century-old oak trees. White chairs arranged in perfect rows, flowers everywhere, peonies and roses and sweet peas, all in shades of blush and cream. A string quartet was setting up near the arch where we'd say our vows. Everything was perfect. Everything except the gaping holes where my family should have been sitting. I'd reserved the entire front row on the bride's side for them. 5 seats. Mom, Dad, Vanessa, Ryan, and my grandmother who'd raised me half the time when my parents were too busy managing Vanessa's competitive dance career, her academic achievements, her everything. Now those seats would sit empty. A visual reminder to every guest that my own family hadn't thought I was worth showing up for. What if Marcus sees? I whispered. What if he realizes that even my own family doesn't think I'm special enough? Stop. Jenna's voice was sharp now, almost angry. Marcus knows exactly how special you are. That man looks at you like you hung the moon and personally installed every star in the sky. He doesn't need your family's validation to know what you're worth. And neither do you. But I did. That was the pathetic truth I'd never admitted out loud. I'd spent my whole life trying to be worth their attention, their pride, their presence. And on the one day that was supposed to be mine, they'd chosen Vanessa. Again. Like they always had. Like they always would. My phone buzzed again. Another message in the family group chat, this time from my grandmother. "Your mother said you're upset. Don't ruin your sister's big day with your drama, Claire. She deserves this moment." I actually laughed then, a harsh, broken sound that scraped my throat raw. My drama. On my wedding day. Vanessa deserved her moment, the moment she'd scheduled specifically to conflict with my wedding. "That's it," Jenna said, and she grabbed my phone right out of my hand. "I'm done watching them do this to you. You're not reading another message from these people today. Jenna, give it back." "No." She held it away from me, her jaw set in that stubborn line I'd seen 1,000 times since we became friends in college. "You want your phone back? You'll get it after you're married. After you've had your first dance. After you've cut the cake and toasted your new husband and celebrated the fact that you found someone who actually sees you. These people?" She gestured at the phone like it was contaminated. "They lost the right to access you the second they chose a fucking brunch over your wedding. But what if there's an emergency? Then they can call the venue. They can call me. They can call Marcus. What they can't do is spend your wedding day sending you messages that make you feel small." Jenna's eyes were fierce, protective, the kind of sister love I'd never gotten from my actual sister. "Claire, I need you to hear me. You are not the problem. You have never been the problem. They are the problem, and you don't have to carry their dysfunction down the aisle with you." I looked out at the garden again, at all the beauty Marcus and I had created together. He'd spent hours stringing fairy lights through the trees himself because he knew I'd dreamed of an enchanted garden wedding since I was a little girl. He'd taste-tested 17 different cake flavors with me, even though he didn't really like cake, just because he wanted me to have exactly what I wanted. He'd held me through 3 separate panic attacks about my family drama in the weeks leading up to today, always patient, always steady, always there. Marcus had shown up for me in every way that mattered. He'd been showing up for me since the day we met 3 years ago at that terrible work conference where I'd accidentally spilled coffee all over his presentation notes. He'd laughed it off, bought me a replacement coffee, and somehow turned my mortifying disaster into the beginning of the greatest love story I'd ever known. And in 30 minutes, I was going to marry him. With or without my family's blessing. With or without their presence. Maybe it was time I started showing up for myself the way Marcus showed up for me. Okay, I said quietly, and Jenna's eyes widened with surprise. Okay. Keep the phone. I don't want to see any more messages. Really? I nodded, feeling something settle in my chest. Not peace exactly, but a kind of grim determination. Really? They made their choice. I'm making mine. Jenna pulled me into a fierce hug, careful not to crush my dress. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. And for what it's worth, Marcus's family loves you so much. His mom has been crying happy tears all morning. His sister told me this morning that she's never seen her brother happier. You have family, Claire. Real family. The kind that shows up. She was right. Marcus's family had embraced me from day one. His mother, Carol, had taken me shopping for my dress and cried when I found the one. His father, James, had asked me seriously what my 5-year plan was and then helped me refine it over whiskey and cigars like I was already his daughter. His sister, Bethany, had thrown me a bachelorette party that was somehow both wild and perfectly suited to my personality. They'd chosen me. They'd seen me. They'd made space for me at their table without me having to beg for a seat. The reception was in the estate's grand ballroom, all glittering chandeliers and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. Our first dance was to the song Marcus had learned to play on guitar just for me. He'd been secretly taking lessons for months. As we swayed together, his arms wrapped around me, I let myself sink into the moment. Into the joy. Into the future we were building together. But then came the toasts. Jenna went first, telling hilarious stories about our college days and how she'd known Marcus was the one when he'd driven 4 hours in a snowstorm just to bring me soup when I had the flu. Marcus's best man, his brother-in-law Derek, shared sweet memories of watching Marcus fall completely head over heels for me. Carol, Marcus's mother, spoke about how grateful she was to welcome me into their family, and how she'd never seen her son happier. Then there was a pause. A space where my family's toasts should have been. The DJ looked uncomfortable, checking his list, clearly confused about the missing parents of the bride's speech. That's when my phone, still in Jenna's possession, started ringing. Loudly. Insistently. Over and over. Jenna pulled it out of her clutch, looked at the screen, and her expression darkened. She showed it to me, Mom calling. Then Dad. Then Vanessa. Then the group chat lighting up with message after message. Not now, I said firmly. Whatever it is, it can wait. But the ringing didn't stop. It was like they could sense that I'd finally let go, that I'd finally chosen peace, and they couldn't tolerate it. The guests were starting to notice, the persistent buzzing cutting through the celebratory atmosphere. Marcus leaned over. Want me to handle it? Before I could answer, the ballroom doors burst open. And there they were. My entire family, still dressed in their brunch finery, looking frantic and out of breath like they'd been running. The music stopped. Every head in the room turned. 200 guests went silent, watching as my mother rushed forward, my father and siblings trailing behind her. Claire. Mom gasped, one hand pressed to her chest dramatically. Thank God we made it. We've been calling and calling. You made it? I repeated slowly, standing up from the head table. Marcus was beside me instantly, his hand on my lower back. You made it to what, exactly? No, you're not. Marcus's voice was calm but absolute. Family shows up. Family keeps their promises. Family doesn't make the person they supposedly love feel small and worthless on what should be the happiest day of their life. You want to know what family looks like? He gestured around the ballroom. It looks like the 200 people who showed up on time, who celebrated Claire, who wiped her tears when you broke her heart this morning. That's her family. You're just people who share her DNA. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched my mother's face cycle through shock, hurt, and finally, anger. "If that's how you feel," she said coldly, gathering her dignity around her like armor, "then I suppose we know where we stand. Come on, everyone. We're clearly not wanted here." They turned to leave, and I felt that old familiar panic rising. The fear of their disappointment, their rejection, their absence. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to apologize, to smooth things over, to make myself smaller so they'd stay. But then Marcus took my hand, lacing his fingers through mine. And Jenna moved to my other side, shoulder pressed against mine in solidarity. And Carol stood from her table, coming to stand with us, followed by James, by Bethany, by Derek, and then, one, by our friends, our chosen family, creating a wall of love and support around me. And I realized something that felt like a revelation. I wasn't afraid of them leaving anymore. Because I wasn't alone. "Wait," I called out, and my family paused at the ballroom doors, turning back with hope in their eyes. Hope that I was going to fold, going to be the easy, flexible Claire they'd always counted on. "I just want you to know," I said, my voice steady and clear, "that I'm done. I'm done being the backup plan. I'm done being the daughter you remember when it's convenient. I'm done shrinking myself to make room for Vanessa to shine. I'm done." My mother's face hardened. "You'll regret this." "No," I said simply. "I really won't." They left then, sweeping out of the ballroom in a storm of righteous indignation. The doors closed behind them with a heavy thud, and for a moment, nobody moved. Then the DJ, God bless him, started the music again. Something upbeat and joyful. And Marcus pulled me into his arms, spinning me around until I was dizzy and laughing despite everything. "Dance with me, Mrs. Morrison," he murmured against my ear. "Dance with me and forget about people who never deserved you in the first place." So I did. We danced, and our guests joined us on the floor, surrounding us with love and laughter and the kind of joy that can only come from being truly, completely yourself. Carol took the role of mother of the bride for the mother-son dance, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Jenna gave a second toast, this one fierce and funny and full of promises about the family we'd built together by choice. Later, as Marcus and I cut the cake, a towering confection of lemon and raspberry that we'd chosen together, no compromises, he leaned close and whispered, "I have a surprise for you." "Another one?" I teased. The guitar wasn't enough? He grinned, that boyish smile that had made me fall in love with him in the first place. "This one's bigger. Come with me." He led me out to the garden, where the fairy lights were just starting to twinkle in the gathering dusk. And there, under the oak tree where we'd said our vows, was a slideshow playing on a large screen, photos of us, of our journey together, set to our favorite songs. But that wasn't the surprise. "I know your family hurt you today," Marcus said softly, pulling me close. "I know those empty seats will probably haunt you for a while. So I wanted to make sure you had something to remember instead. Something better." He pressed a button on his phone, and suddenly, the slideshow shifted. Messages started appearing on the screen. Video messages. From our friends, from his family, from my old college professors, from co-workers, from people I'd met throughout my life who'd actually seen me, valued me, loved me. "Claire, you are the kindest person I've ever met. Watching you and Marcus together gives me hope. You deserve every happiness in the world. You are so loved, so valued, so cherished." One after another, people poured their hearts out, telling me what I meant to them. 200 messages from 200 people who'd shown up today. Who'd always shown up. I was crying again, but this time they were good tears. Healing tears. The kind that washed away old wounds and left space for new growth. "You are not the sum of your family's rejection," Marcus said, turning me to face him, his hands cupping my face as he wiped away my tears. "You are the sum of every life you've touched, every person you've loved, every kindness you've given. And Claire, that sum is infinite. You are so, so loved." "I love you," I whispered, and I'd never meant anything more in my entire life. "I love you too," he said. And I will spend every day for the rest of our lives making sure you never doubt that. Making sure you never feel invisible or second best or not enough. Because you are everything, Claire. You always have been. We kissed under those fairy lights, surrounded by the evidence of all the people who'd chosen us, who'd celebrated us, who'd shown up when it mattered. And I felt something inside me heal. Not completely, healing takes time, but enough. Enough to know that I was going to be okay. Better than okay. Because I'd finally learned what I should have known all along: the people who are meant to love you will show up. They'll make space for you. They'll celebrate you without needing you to beg for it. And the ones who don't? They're not your people. They never were. My phone buzzed in Jenna's clutch, still inside the ballroom. More messages from my family, probably. More guilt trips, more manipulation, more attempts to pull me back into their orbit. But I was done orbiting them. I was done shrinking myself to fit into their narrow definition of who I should be. I was Marcus's wife now. I was part of a family that had chosen me freely and loved me fully. I was surrounded by people who saw me, really saw me, and thought I was worth showing up for. And for the first time in my 28 years, that felt like enough. More than enough. It felt like everything. As we walked back into the ballroom hand in hand, ready to dance the night away with the people who actually mattered, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. I looked different somehow. Lighter. Freer. Like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even know was there, and someone had finally lifted it off my shoulders. "What are you thinking?" Marcus asked, following my gaze. I smiled, squeezing his hand. "I'm thinking that this is the happiest day of my life. Not despite what happened with my family, but maybe because of it. Because I finally know exactly who I am and who my people are." "And who are you, Mrs. Morrison?" I looked around at the ballroom full of love and laughter, at the friends who'd become family, at the man who'd promised to choose me every single day for the rest of our lives. "I'm someone who's worthy of being chosen," I said. "And I'm someone who knows how to choose myself." Marcus pulled me close, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "Damn right you are." We danced until midnight, until my feet ached and my face hurt from smiling. We cut the cake and tossed the bouquet and sent our guests home with full hearts and happy memories. And when it was finally just us, standing in the empty ballroom surrounded by the beautiful debris of the best day of our lives, I felt nothing but peace. My family had made their choice. They'd shown me exactly who they were and what I meant to them. And I'd made my choice too. I'd chosen the people who showed up. I'd chosen the man who loved me without conditions. I'd chosen myself. And I'd never, ever regret it. Because that's what real love looks like. It shows up. It keeps its promises. It makes space and chooses you freely and celebrates you loudly. Everything else? Everything else is just noise. And I was finally done listening to it.